Our initial thought was to build a dolly or something.
Yeah, we were going to either modify a cart that we had, or we were going to build a purpose-made cart to set the cab on. But then we got to thinking that, you know, the more times we handle this thing, the risk of damaging it goes up. And it really doesn't solve our problem for accessing the different areas of the cab underneath the firewall. You know, if it was on a cart, it would have to come off the cart, it would have to get tipped. It just didn't make a lot of sense.
No, and as we found out with Shorty's cab, these things are heavy. Like they're heavy, surprisingly so. So this one's got the air conditioning. It's got a bunch of other extra electronics inside of it, so it's probably going to be heavier than Shorty's cab. Even though we are going to be pulling the doors, we're going to knock the glass out of it just to try to lighten it as much as we can. But nonetheless, we're going to have to move it around, and especially we want to be underneath this thing. Want to make sure the floors are cleaned up and treated properly, and they're going to last for another 45 years. Likewise, as Ed mentioned, the firewall, I mean, it's in really nice shape. I'd like to get in there and clean it really well, and if at all possible, preserve the original paint, because this will be the color of the truck. We are going to go with the medium blue metallic or medium blue pearl as the primary color for Shorty. So yeah, it would be nice to be able to get at it easily. Now, we've worked on Jeeps for years.
Yep.
That's our bread and butter. We like to do Jeep restorations. We've done several of them over the years. And early on, you know, try to find a Jeep tub that's not all rotted out. I mean, the way they're designed, the way they have the hat channels for support for the floors, they actually put oak inside the hat channels to stiffen it up. It absorbs moisture and they just rot. So unless you get a Jeep tub from the desert,
Yeah.
right, it's going to have issues.
Yeah.
And so we've been flipping tubs around, and it's just, I always thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a rotisserie? But my, you know, thoughts when it comes to rotisserie is they're big, they're complicated,
Expensive.
they're expensive, and there's no way I could ever, you know, hope to have something like that in my shop. And then I actually did some research, and you know what, man, I was surprised by how simple it really is. You know, once you get all the, you know, mirrors and smoke put aside, it's easy.
We found that you can cheaply pick up a couple of engine stands from your local Princess Auto or Harbor Freight store, depending where you're living, and they're well suited to this application. You know, just with some little extra steel, you can make the holding fixtures, and it's fully adjustable.
Yeah, and now we got to be careful here because we're talking about working on Jeep tubs, maybe on an old bullnose cab. We're not talking about a lot of weight. We're not going over 1,000 pounds in weight. So I wouldn't want to try to make a engine stand out of, a rotisserie out of engine stands, and then try to put a 1970 Firebird body with the subframes on it. I mean, I think that would be asking a little bit too much.
Yeah, that would be unsafe.
I remember watching this tank overhaul series that they had about 20 years ago, and it was fascinating. These guys all over the world are restoring tanks, and they had this Sherman tank in England on a rotisserie, and their biggest fear was if it started to get to past a tipping point, away it would go. And so watching them try to rotate that thing, it was all. That's what I thought of when, you know, just a normal car rotisserie, but it's not that way at all.
Yeah, you want to make it suitable for the weight that it's going to hold, and you want to pay close attention to your center of gravity, because as Darcy mentioned, when you get to a certain point, gravity is going to grab a hold of it, and it's going to do its thing.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful there.
And we mentioned the gantry. So we bought this gantry off of Marketplace. I can't say enough about it. It was like $400 Canadian. It's rated for 1,000 pounds. Now the winch that came with it is way too light. The guy thought it was. Now I remember hearing 400 pounds. I don't know if that was doubled up the line with the block or not, but nonetheless, it's not near strong enough. As you can tell, we were struggling trying to get, you know, Shorty's cab off and trying to lift the motor out. So we've upgraded, and we've got a new winch motor, a bigger one, rated for up to 1,330 pounds. Now again, the gantry is only good for 1,000, so we got to be very aware of that. And we got a trolley for it, so we can have some side-to-side adjustment when we're lifting. And yeah, so we're going to use the gantry to pick up the cab. And then while the cab is up in the air, we're going to attach the rotisserie pieces. And then like you would with when you put an engine stand on an engine, we'll put the rest of the A-frames on while it's still hanging in the air. And then we'll put the spreader bar in the bottom and we'll lower it down, and then we make our adjustments. There's lots of height adjustments to make to balance it both sides out, so you'll have a good smooth rotation once you get it set up.
Yeah, that's right. Another consideration is we want to be able to roll this thing in and out of the garage. Like if we're doing some work on the frame and we don't want the cab in the way or getting damaged by whatever we're doing, it's easier just to roll it out onto the apron of the garage pad, and then we can bring it back in. But the height of the door would be the limiting factor.
Exactly. And like Ed said, this thing's coming off in the next day or so, and we're not going to be working on it, doing any sheet metal or body work probably for a good 2 weeks or more. Yeah. And so we got to store it somewhere. We're going to have the glass out, we're going to have the doors off to try to lighten the weight, and we don't want to leave it out in the elements. So we got to move it back and forth in and out of the shop while we're working on Shorty's chassis, getting that finished off. So yeah, it's going to be kind of in the way, so we got to find a way we can move it easily. And I think the rotisserie will definitely help there. So let's have a look at the rotisserie. We'll show you how we built it and how simple it really is, and how, it's the way it breaks down too, right?
Yeah, it knocks right down, and it's easily stored in the garage or elsewhere, but it gets out of the way.
Unlike the gantry.
Yeah, that kind of has to stay where it is, but I'm so glad to have that.
Yeah, we are. But trade-off being, if you lived in the city, your neighbors probably wouldn't appreciate it on the front driveway. So there's that to consider. You want to be a good neighbor, but we're out on an acreage, so it's not that big of a deal. But she is a kind of a big, unsightly beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go have a look at the rotisserie.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, here's the rotisserie. We've obviously pulled it in and condensed it so we could get both sides into the shot here. You can definitely see we've got an old engine stand here to compare where the bones of the rotisserie comes from. These are the lowest entry point engine stand that you can get from Harbor Freight or Princess Auto. And we got them on sale. They were $75 each. So $150, that's Canadian, so like $9 US. And so we got them for $150 Canadian. And then we bought some steel. We bought some 3-inch and some 2-inch steel. And we started to chop it up a little bit. We kept the basic bottom of the engine stand, but you can see how it's angled back. And then we added in, so we cut it off, I'd say probably in the middle. And then we added in our extensions. And then we re-welded it back together. And so we essentially brought this up quite a distance. And then for the legs, we extended those out so we can make it more stable. We added in the braces, the supports, and there she is, and she's good and strong. Of course, the top piece here, we took off the engine mount brackets, and then we just put in a couple of U-bolts and some flat stock behind, and just slid it in, and this is our attaching points for the rotisserie. Now, with this stock right here, we have adjustment side to side, and we have adjustments up and down. Having the L shape is generally going to work on most applications, although, again, you'll have to modify it depending on what you're putting it on, what you're hoping to install on here. We've had a variety of Jeep tubs, World War II tubs, post-World War II M-series tubs. We've even had a mutt on here. Now, the mutt was a little bit scary for me because the mutt has, and the mutt is it's one of the last production Jeeps that they made, the military M151 mutt, and it has a unibody construction. So it had the Jeep tub, plus it had the frame still attached. So we had to have this, I think it had a different spreader bar, longer, and I was worried about the weight, but hey, you know what? It worked out fine. So we'll show you some pictures of that. So yeah, that's all it is basically. We've increased the height of the engine stand. We increased the bottom wheels and added in the A-frame supports. Did the spreader bar across the bottom, and away you go. So for the cab, we're going to have to add in some extensions here to give us enough distance, especially on the front. We do have an extension already on here, but it's going to have to go even more, another 5-6 inches, to clear the heater box and the brake booster, and to give us enough access that we can still get in and work on the firewall and get that all cleaned up. But now we'll be able to have the cab on, and we'll be able to rotate, and we can get to the bottom of the cab, and it's going to make life a heck of a lot easier for us. And it didn't cost us a lot of money. I'd probably say $400 tops for all the materials all in, plus the welding. And as Ed said, it breaks right down into its basic pieces, and it's easily stored away. So a really good investment. And when you see it on the cab, it'll all make sense. All right, we're getting the rotisserie installed on the cab. We did a little blurb on our homemade rotisserie here an episode or two ago. Just taking a typical Harbor Freight engine stand, and we modified it. And you can see what we added in: a bunch of steel to extend the length of it, and we extended the A-frame, put in some reinforcements. As far as mounting, very, very simple. Got some 2x2 tubing here. We got U-bolts that we use, metal plate. Gives us all kinds of adjustment, up and down, side to side. We bolted our 2 brackets to the cab mounts, existing cab mounts on the vehicle, or on the cab, I should say, and got it adjusted for width. We've got it as low as we can get it right now, hoping we can get it past the overhead door. And now Ed's going to throw, and we've got the front ones on as well. We have to extend those out quite a bit because of the heater box. So that's probably our only weak point right now, is got these arms sticking out quite a ways, but we'll put it on and see what happens. Now we got to put our spreader bar in the bottom, and then we'll bring you back. Okay, the rotisserie is on, and it's not too bad. We've got it kind of lower than it needs to be or should be for us to turn it easily. That's so we can get it through the garage door. So ideally, we would have it up higher so that the center of gravity would be in a better place, so we could turn it a lot easier. But again, now we're not working on it for a while. We're going to kind of roll it to the one end of the shop, and that's where she's going to stay for another probably, I don't know, 3 weeks, maybe a month before we start doing body work on it. But I'll tell you, it's going to be a lot easier working on this thing because we can just spin it right around, get full access, 360 degrees. We had a good look at the bottom. Bottom is good. It's dirty, of course, but it's not all rusted out. Cab mounts are good. The firewall, I believe, is even going to clean up nice back to its factory color. We may probably not have to paint it, which would be nice. Yeah, there she is. We're going to roll it to the corner now, and we're going to start stripping the frame down.